Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Friday edition, Black Friday edition, believe in Bills. Adam Benigni, WGRZ TV, and Sal Maiorana, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Sal, things go well for you and your family?
Yeah, we traveled down to Owego, Binghamton area, and I get the Weather Channel app, right? So I'm looking at it, and the whole thing is completely blue, and there's snow and 3 to 5 inches. We start driving at them. There's nothing. They had some snow on the ground, but it didn't snow the whole way. So easy trip in, had a great meal. Trip home was fine. So yeah, I was a little concerned when I saw that Weather Channel app, and then I realized what a piece of junk that thing is, and everything was fine. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to show for Sunday night in Buffalo in Orchard
Yeah.
Park. I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of blue, at least according to what the prognosticators say. But I guess we'll have to just wait and see because you never know with those snow bands what's going to happen.
Well, this time of year, right? I mean, December arrives, and we've seen it in the past with this team and what they've had to deal with. So we certainly think, in one way, shape, or form or another, the weather's going to be a factor on Sunday
Yeah.
night against the San Francisco 49ers. Bottom line is this: a win for the Bills, and they clinch a fifth straight division title. Based on the Packers-Dolphins result, that scenario is now a reality.
Yep. Yeah. I watched the first half of that game, and that was all you needed to see. It was 24-3 at halftime. So I went to bed figuring that I'd wake up and the Bills were going to be sitting with a magic number of 1. So any Bills win or Dolphins loss gets it done. And the win, like you said, Adam, could come Sunday night against a really banged up 49ers team. Yeah, it's been impressive. I mean, I thought Miami would give the Packers more of a game last night, especially with what's on the line for them. But man, they again in cold weather. I don't even think it was the cold weather so much, Adam. They just didn't play well, and the Packers are a pretty good team. So I think the Dolphins. I don't know if they ran it out, they'd be 10-7. Would that be good enough to get a wild card spot? I don't know, but I can't see that team winning 5 straight either. So they could be pretty much done. But crazier things that have happened. I would rather see them. I think if the Bills were the 2 seed, Adam, I think I'd rather see the Dolphins get it than say the Bengals or the Chargers. I think
No
both of those
question.
teams are kind of dangerous. So maybe we're actually rooting for Miami once the division does get locked up to win a few, because I think that might be the better matchup for the Bills in the playoffs.
And you mentioned, as they begin to head down the stretch here, coming out of the bye, a lot of positive momentum. They're getting healthier. I mean, the way this thing has gone and the fact they've started this thing 9-2, so impressive with the opportunity to wrap up a fifth straight division title as December begins, exceeding the expectations of just about anyone, at least outside that locker room and that organization, as far as what the Bills have been able to accomplish this year. Quick word from the sponsor before we get into it. Bet Online is the most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. The largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, NHL, college hoops, as well as the UFC and MMA. Head to the website today, Bet Online. The game starts here. Okay, so it's Friday. Sean McDermott has addressed the injury situation to the extent he's going to, at least at this point, with the game coming up on Sunday night. We know that tight end Dalton Kincaid is once again going to be out with the knee injury for the Bills against San Francisco. Wide receiver Keon Coleman, linebacker Matt Milano, who's a whole topic in and of himself, and defensive tackle Dwayne Carter are questionable. Spencer Brown is going to be back. So there's some intrigue to that news today. We've seen them have success without Dalton Kincaid in the lineup. I mean, I think things are shaping up very well for Buffalo heading into this game, and certainly as they look toward the final 5 after it and the push down the stretch for seeding in the AFC.
Yeah, look, I mean, we can probably take these guys one at a time, and we can start with Dalton Kincaid. I told you before he missed the Chiefs game that was the one injury that I felt the Bills could really overcome, because I think Dawson Knox, you couldn't have a much better number 2 tight end than Knox, especially a guy who's been in the system for now, it's been 5 years, 5 or 6 years actually. So I was not really worried about the Kincaid injury at all, and that remains true this week. I think Knox steps in. They're fine. Quentin Morris will be the backup. He's been here for several years. So there's really not too much of a step down in terms of Kincaid to Knox. So that's fine. I don't know. Do you feel the same way about that? I mean, what do you think about that situation? Yeah, it would be nice to have him, but what do you think?
I think there's a little bit of a drop off, but I think, and we have talked about this before, I think the presence of Amari Cooper is what makes a bigger difference for the Buffalo offense and the passing game and what it forces defenses to do and what it opens up for others within it. I mean, it's been a constant theme since they've traded him, and we've seen it play out that way within games, even though Cooper's numbers aren't all that impressive. It's the coverage that he draws and what it allows the Bills to do offensively in the passing game that I think makes the biggest difference. So, I mean, Cooper's the one whose presence I think has the biggest impact, not necessarily Dalton Kincaid, although there is a degree of drop-off. I mean, I think it's a situation where the Bills offensively are going to function just fine without him.
Yeah, and then
that's sort of my take
we
on
talk right. We talk about Coleman. I mean, I'm guessing because I think he was a limited participant, I think, all week. I don't think he was. I think he was the one guy outside of Kincaid who didn't practice. I think Coleman was the one guy out of all the guys on the. There's about 15 guys listed on their injury report, but he was a limited. So my guess is they might make it one more week with him. I mean, he was catching passes from Josh Allen. There was video a few weeks ago of him trying to practice running the routes, but he wasn't catching the ball. Like the ball would come to him and he'd just slap it away with his good hand. He was at least catching passes this week, and practice seemed to be able to do it. So my guess on him, I wouldn't be surprised, Adam, if they sit him out one more week just to make sure he's completely healthy for the home stretch. But then I wouldn't be surprised either if he plays, because their attitude has always been, if you're able to practice and you're able to play, you're going to play. So I don't know how limited he was. We only see a portion of practice, but that would be the one that I'm not quite sure what his game status is going to be. You got any thought on what you think there?
No, I mean, I think it falls in line with everything you said in the history that we've seen. I haven't seen him, and everyone was off for the holiday. There was no availability, so this is an especially difficult week to gauge that sort of thing. But I mean, I think you look at the history of it. I mean, I think there's a chance that he's in there. The bigger question to me, and I think it's on everyone's mind, Sal, was Matt Milano. How are they going to handle this situation? And Sean McDermott saying it's day to day, that type. Of course, he's going to say that. What's your anticipation for how he gets back into the lineup when he returns, and what role he'll play when he does get back in there?
Yeah, I mean, he practiced all week. He was full. And you heard McDermott say today that, well, this is his first full week of practice. So that might be an indication that they're leaning towards not, closing the window on him. They've got until, I think, next Wednesday to have the 21-day window will be up. And obviously he's going to be activated at some point. He'll play in the Rams game for sure. I don't know. McDermott seemed a little bit wishy-washy today on that. Like maybe they want to get him another full week of practice before they actually get him on the field. And with the weather concerns this weekend, maybe it's not a great week to put him back on the field, even though I think his injuries really wouldn't be impacted by a slippery field. Everybody else is at the same risk factor as he would be. Maybe he doesn't play. Maybe they're going to go one more week, especially given that they are in such a commanding position. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they sit him out for this one, but if they do put him back in, my expectation has been right along that it'll be a slow go. They'll get him in, I would think, passing downs, because that is where he clearly is better than Dorian Williams. Let Dorian Williams continue to play the bulk of the downs. And then as you move forward, whether it's the Rams game or the Lions game, at some point, Matt Milano is going to be your 100% linebacker. Dorian Williams has been fine. He's been a nice replacement. But if Matt Milano is Matt Milano, he's your starting linebacker. So that's, I think, what's going to happen there. Well, is he playing this week? I don't know. That's kind of a 50-50 call for me right now.
All right, so independent of all of that, you talk about a team that's been affected by injuries, and the San Francisco 49ers are at the top of that list. As we record this early in the afternoon on Friday, we don't have any official word on quarterback Brock Purdy, who's dealing with a shoulder injury, but the list, Sal, is, what was the line in Top Gun? It's long and distinguished for the San Francisco. It goes beyond Brock. I mean, the indication, he was doing some light throwing this week. I mean, the vibe is he's probably going to play in this game, but I mean, they've been so impacted with very significant players on that roster. The timing And it's there. This is a dangerous game, especially if Purdy does play. But I mean, the timing of this, in terms of the way San Francisco has struggled and dealt with injuries really all year at 5-6, this shapes up pretty well potentially for Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, Purdy, that's going to be a difficult call for Kyle Shanahan. I mean, look, they've lost 2 games in a row. So they need to get things righted here. They're 5-6. The good news for them is they're only 1 game out of first place in their division. The Seahawks and the Cardinals are both 6-5, and they're also right in the mix for the wild card. So they're certainly nowhere near being out of this. There's 6 weeks to go, 6 games to go for the 49ers. So they're right in it. I mean, this is a non-conference game. Maybe they do sit Purdy to make sure that he's ready to go for their home stretch because they are so close right now in the playoff race. They do need to start winning some games though. So I don't know. I don't know what the risk factor is going to be with his shoulder. I mean, I've read conflicting reports this week. Just this morning, I saw a report that he's only limited in practice, and their sense from the reporters there was that he's not going to play. And then elsewhere you read, yeah, he's ramping up and we can't read the situation. I mean, maybe by the time this podcast is over, because it is West Coast there. It's only, we're taping at 1:40, it's early in the day over there. By late this afternoon, maybe things are different. They might make a determination on Purdy. My guess is he'll be questionable. They'll leave the Bills kind of thinking about it all weekend, but I don't know. It's a tough call. If this was a division game, Adam, for them, I would guess he probably would play because they're playing an AFC opponent. That might tilt the scales the other way to rest him for 1 more week. But again, who knows?
All right. So we've talked about the major factors, and the forecast, of course, is unpredictable here in Buffalo and Western New York. But how much, if the weather does get nasty, how do you see that affecting things?
Yeah, I mean, let's just back up to injuries, too. I don't know what the 49ers are thinking in terms of what this weather might look like. Bosa is a humongous – that's a humongous injury. Again, there's conflicting reports on whether he might go or not. If they don't have him, Adam, I mean, he's a big part of their pass rush. I mean, their defensive line is not very good. They've got Leonard Floyd on the other side, who has started to play better. I think he's got 3.5 sacks the last 2 games, but their defensive tackle situation is not good. And they really do need Bosa on that front line to make them, certainly better. So I don't know what his status is going to be. The other one that popped up that I was surprised about, I didn't know about this, Deommodore Lenoir, who's their best cornerback. He's mainly a slot guy. He hasn't practiced the first 2 days of the week either. That would be like the Bills losing Taron Johnson. So they've got some big, and Trent Williams, the offensive tackle, I read something where he's in a boot right now, walking around with one of those scooters. So it looks like he might not be playing either. Again, the weather, we're going to get to the weather in a second. That could all impact what the 49ers want to do with some of these guys, but they're right there. I just named 4 guys, Adam, that are potential Pro Bowlers. I mean, a couple of them are all pros. Trent Williams and Bosa are all pro players. Lenoir is a tremendous player. And then Purdy, they've got a lot of issues coming into this game. So if you want to start talking about weather, we can, because that might impact some of their decisions.
Well, when I talked about the injury list saying, long and distinguished, you just outlined it right there.
Yeah,
I mean, that's it. It goes beyond Brock Purdy was my original point in bringing that up.
The Bills could have some massive advantages in this game based on San Francisco's injury report.
And this is my point as far as the weather plays in. And I think Devin McCourty, former Patriots defensive back, who is now with NBC Sports and Football Night in America, is going to be part of the coverage of this game Sunday night on NBC. He brought this up. He was our guest earlier this week. I thought he was very insightful. And when I asked him about the matchup specifically, without any of the particulars in terms of the injury situation, kind of similar to where we are now having this discussion, he talked about how things really fell to Buffalo's favor in terms of a difficult opponent for the Niners, tough, physical on the line of scrimmage, the ability to run the football. I mean, you look at the types and the caliber of injuries you're talking about, and you just outlined with San Francisco there. I mean, I see Buffalo being able to be really balanced. We know that Allen can throw in the weather, and we've seen all that, but then you factor in the ability to run. This offense has been at its best for the Bills, Sal, when they've had the balance and the complement of the run game and the threat of it. And I think it's setting up where they're going to be able to execute that. I mean, I see the Bills being effective on that side of the ball, certainly in this game, and having a very strong chance to win.
Yeah, I think the Bills can run against the 49ers. And, we might have a situation, again, based on what the wind's doing. I don't think they're forecasting, at least Sunday night, that it's going to be horribly windy. Obviously, it'll be cold, and we don't know about the snow. But I think the Bills will be able to run against this team. They are not very good in the middle of the defensive line. So this is a night where Connor McGovern, David Edwards, Osiris Torrance really need to dominate up front and create some space. Now, Fred Warner is a great linebacker for the 49ers, and he will be all over the field, even though he revealed this week he's been playing with a broken bone in his ankle since week 4, which is kind of remarkable, but he's a terrific player. But I think the Bills, if they can win up front, and all signs point to that being able to be something they can do, they should be able to run against San Francisco, and that's always a good thing when it's a weather game. Flip side, of course, they have Christian McCaffrey, right? And especially if Purdy doesn't play, you know damn well they're going to be leaning on McCaffrey and maybe even his backup Jordan Mason to run the ball. So it'll be interesting to see, because really I think this is one of those games. It is kind of a cliche, but this might be a game where the team that runs the ball better has the better chance to win. So we'll see about that. But I think it's important for the Bills to be balanced. You're right. Allen can play in weather. He's proven it. We know that. I don't think Purdy is really, I don't think he's ever played in a snow game if it does snow. So if he's going to be the guy, that should be advantage Buffalo. Of course, I did talk to Allen about this the other day. I asked him a question in the presser, and he basically said, yeah, it would be ideal if it doesn't snow. Then I talked to him at his locker one-on-one. I was kind of shooting the shit with him. And I said, honestly, you don't like playing in the snow, right? And he goes, no, I hate it. And I've told fans this over and over and over. They just don't want to believe me, but the players don't like playing in the snow. They just don't. And I made the point to Josh. I said, when you're playing like that Cleveland-Pittsburgh game the other night, the snow globe, everyone was going crazy and how great snow football is. He said, yeah, the visuals are great on TV, but believe me, it's not anything that we enjoy. And I said, and I said to this, it's because you can't be a true athlete, right? You can't be the world's best players, the best athletes in the sport of football can't do what they do. And he said, yeah, that's exactly the point. We can't play the way our bodies are conditioned to play in that kind of weather. So all you fans out there who romanticize about snow football, your team, the Buffalo Bills, do not like playing in the snow. I counted it up, Adam. I think it's 28 of the 53 guys are from warm weather states. So you tell me how much they love playing in the snow. They don't. So stop rooting for the snow, people.
Well, you know what? It brings up an interesting point, because I've had this discussion with people inside that organization and inside that locker room. And really what it comes down to, not just in terms of the Buffalo Bills and other cold weather teams, but in the NFL in general, right? Where the edge is preparation. Where, Josh Allen, if it's going to be cold or windy or snowing or whatever, he's had that experience and knows the right gear to use, how to prep the body, whatever, to be the most comfortable. They've had that experience, and they know each athlete is tailored to their own personal taste and preferences and that sort of a thing, but they know how to prepare for it and how to be at their best under those conditions, as compared to players who are more used to warm or neutral weather situations. That, to me, is where the edge really manifests itself.
That's true. And they live here, so they're used to the cold. They walk around town or whatever they're doing, and they get used to the cold. Your body gets used to it. And they've been outside all week for practice. But here's the thing. When it rains, Adam, or when it snows, they go inside. They don't want to risk being outside on a rainy day on their grass field behind the field house and have guys slip and get hurt. They go inside when there's inclement weather. I think occasionally if it rains, and if they know the forecast is calling for rain, I think they might stay outside maybe one day of the practice week if that opportunity presents itself. But in general, when the weather turns shitty, they go inside, especially snow. They do not practice if there's heavy snow falling on the ground. They go inside. So again, people think there's a big advantage when the field is covered with snow that the Bills are going to have the advantage. No, they really don't. They don't play or practice in those conditions. So yes, your point is true. It's cold here. They get used to that. And they do practice outdoors in the cold when it's not precipitating. but it is not the advantage that everyone claims to think it is.
All right, so it's Bills at 9-2, San Francisco 49ers at 5-6, Sunday night, 8:20, Highmark Stadium, Sunday Night Football. Had the pleasure of having, again, Devin McCourty on with us earlier this week. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that interview, you can get it on the episode list here. It's the one previous to this one. Really insightful as to how difficult it is to defend in the challenge the San Francisco 49ers and all others really have in defending against Josh Allen. Excellent interview. It's also available on YouTube as well. So we've had really good views on that, a lot of good comments. And one of the comments, Sal, I just had to read this to you.
As if I don't know what's coming here.
All right. Great interview, but Sal, and I mean this with mucho respect, but why the constant stupefied face? Go Bills.
Hey, it's just my resting face.
I've known you for 30 years. That's the face I'm used to.
That's my resting face. I mean, God did not give me a smiley face when I'm not, supposed to be smiling. That's how I look. Now, I did also see a comment about your TV voice too, Adam. Did you see the one in there about your TV voice? Yeah. So don't give me, don't put it all on me. People are getting on you too. That Adam Benigni TV voice that he puts on.
It is what it is. I don't put it on, man. It's just, it is what it is. We are who we are. There's some who have, and the Bills have done a lot to counter this year with a 9-2 record. I mean, we call it like we see it, but jokingly, several close to us have actually referred to this podcast as Curmudgeon's Corner. So maybe the face fits, Sal.
I think it's, look, I know that I've been a curmudgeon my whole life. Ask my parents. My mother's not here anymore, but my father will tell you he's had that look his whole life. So what are you going to do? It's part of my personality, Adam. People love me for it or they hate me for it. Quite honestly, I don't care. What you get is what you get.
Well, here's something that also might get on your nerves Sunday night.
Okay.
I'm going to be in the press box.
Oh God, great. Here we go.
You got to deal with me face to face, man.
I will welcome you back with open arms, being that we have worked together for almost 30 years up there. It's been weird not having you around. So we'll welcome you back to the press box.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm going to be involved in the game coverage for Channel 2 down the stretch. And of course on Monday night, which is my gig, Sports Talk Live Buffalo. And just for a moment, again, the game is on WGRZ Channel 2. We have special coverage planned. Vic Carucci and I are going to be anchoring a special pregame show at 6:30 Sunday night outside the stadium. Tony Dungy, who was with NBC, of course, Hall of Famer, former head coach, is going to be our guest, giving us some insight on the game as well. And then afterwards, we will carry all of the post-game press conferences live on a special extended edition of Channel 2 News. And we've done that in the past. Fans seem to like it. So it'll be a late night. And then, Sal, when that's all over, you and I will record our YouTube edition of the postgame of Believe in Bills. So you better have a little extra coffee. And please, by the time I get to you, be in a good mood, if you can.
Well, it'll all depend on how I write on deadline.
All right. Well, you'll have a little extra time to do that. Anything on special plan on the Democrat and Chronicle?
Nope. Usual game coverage. It's all online as soon as the game ends. And then shortly after I get back from the locker room, I do my, much anticipated report card. So, nothing changes. It's just the time of the night is much later than a normal Sunday afternoon. So that's,
all right.
That's the deal.
And the potential to write about the clinching of a fifth straight division title for the Buffalo Bills. Bills, San Francisco, Sunday night, 8:20. For Sal Maiorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Benigni, WGRZ TV and Sports Talk Live. Thanks, as always, for being with us here on Believe in Bills.